Okay, Shavua Tov, Shavua Shel Geula, Be'ezrat Hashem, Shavua Shel Simcha, Shavua Shel Besarot Tovot. Adar Aleph, we continue to learn the whole month of Adar Aleph, sponsored by Lori and Stephen Eagle, in memory of Lori's Ima, Tzivia Bracha Bas Elia, and anonymously in honor of the coming of Mashiach, and by the Merkins, in honor of their son Yaakov Akiva completing the Nachyomi, and for the protection of their son Hillel Tzvi Yehuda, currently serving in Gaza, and all the Chayalim. And today as well, today's sponsorship is dedicated by Eli and Masha Goldsmith, dedicated to Milchemes Mikdash, and for the safety and protection of their son Baruch Yitzchak ben Eliyahu Eliezer HaKohen, which we're so happy to have with us this past Shabbos, and got the duchen together with him. It was very, very special. So as we're continuing now where we're at in this beautiful journey of the zehut, of finding our identity, sometimes I really want to run with this sefer. I want to run with it. I want to just jump and see what else, Yalla, bring us to all the explanations of how to talk to this door, how to talk to ourselves, v'chule, v'chule. And then sometimes there's certain key paragraphs that it would just be pashut meod asur to just jump over. But I just want to, before we move forward at all, just want to put out a real cry, a real tefillah that Hashem should send the messages that are needed for this door that's looking for the zehut, to hear it from the right people in a very clear way, in a way that reminds them who they are and what they're made out of. And I was thinking about this a lot over Shabbos, and this morning I saw a Torah by I think it's the son of the Chasam Sofer, of Moshe Sofer, I think the Ksav Sofer. Listen to this beautiful void. It's such a beautiful, beautiful void. So beautiful. Like, shows you the depth of Chassidus, how they look at every pasuk and they see things. Even though Moshe Sofer, I wouldn't say that the Chasam Sofer was, from the line of Chassidus, but it's still it's brought in a compilation of Chassidic teachings on the parasha. It says, there's a pasuk in the parasha that says, "V'ata tedaber el kol chachmei lev," something like that. And then it says la'asot et, and then they should do whatever they have to do. But the pasuk says you should speak to all the chachmei lev. You should speak to all those that have wisdom in their heart, and they shall do so and so. And then they should begin to construct so and so. So the void that I saw, if I remember correctly, it said like this: is that what we need, what Moshe Rabbeinu was able to do, is he was able to talk to someone and tell them, Boychik, you're a chacham lev. Not like I'm looking for those that have chochmas lev. You are a chacham lev. You have wisdom of the heart. And then once a person heard that, then immediately like, that's right, of course, this is what I'm supposed to do. Right? Sorry? Turn the light on. That's it. It's not much like, oh, that's right. Bing, that's what, And that's what we're looking for, like, across the board. Like someone to come and tell us those words. Yidlach, this is who you are. Now, what's very interesting is that what we're seeing in the world, in terms of Jewish identity, is something very, very interesting. I don't know how many of you are following Matisyahu at all, but you know that he's on this crazy trip of Jewish identity again, and it's in this like very just basic stage of like, who sings that song? I'm a Jew and I'm proud. Who sings it? Benny Friedman, right. We used to, the girls used to go to sleep to that song every night. I'm a Jew and I'm proud and sing it aloud and forever and ever, that's what I'll be. So we're seeing this, like this amazing, like, just this amazing display of like, I'm a Jew and I'm proud, right? And it's coming from like, very, very far out places, like, places like, crazy places, places you wouldn't necessarily, and that's their feeling of like shaykhus. That's their feeling of like, I'm shaykh, this is my front on the battlefield, right? And then like the question becomes deeper for us that are already, of course we're Jews and we're proud because our legs lifted us up and made us come here and we're here. And then that question is, well, how does that manifest here? Like, what's the equivalent of I'm a Jew and I'm proud, and what's the concept? What's the level of that when we're here already? When either like, no, I checked that box because I'm a Jew and I'm proud that I made Aliyah. I'm here. I'm in Eretz Yisrael. And there's a whole merchav, there's a whole world, there's a whole space of like understanding what's that nigun today for us that are here, right? And what's the nigun for those that are already in that parsha? Like they don't have to now put on a flag or something, and because the light was turned on a while ago. The question is, what's the light now? What's today's light? What's today's turning on of the light? And that's why what we were learning for the last few weeks. Not last week we didn't have shir, but before that, Rav Sasson was teaching us that the process of Geula began when Moshe Rabbeinu was introduced to a burning bush. I'm just going to recap very fast what we learned in the last few times. Moshe Rabbeinu was introduced to the Ribono Shel Olam by a burning bush, v'hasneh inenu ukal, and the fire is not consuming, to show us that Hashem was showing Moshe Rabbeinu, I know you think you know these people because you grew up with them. I know you think that they're done, they're tired, they won't have any zitzfleish to do anything. But Moshe Rabbeinu is being shown by Kadosh Baruch Hu, belabas eish, this is who they are. Like, inside that place called the Neshama Elokis, it never, ever, 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 ever stops being on fire. Ever. It never does. Paro sees, we begin to have some type of a connection to that. And what's his response? Tichbad alaya avodah. He makes the workload heavier. Now, why does he make the workload heavier, like we described, so that there wouldn't be any distractions from the workload? Because if there's distraction from the workload, then what happens to me? What do I have time to do? I have time to litchaber, to that place of I'm a Jew and I'm proud, and whatever the rest of the words are right now, right? That's basically what ends up happening. So in the time of Mitzrayim, of the Gula of Mitzrayim, the form was, how do I disconnect a Yid from listening to his neshama? Distractions in the form of more workload, more bricks, more work that had, the most damaging thing psychologically of that workload was that they all knew that work was for nothing at the end. They worked, and that work didn't do anything. But today's distractions are very similar. They're very, very similar in a certain way. The things that take us away from listening to our neshama, seems like we put so much, not work, but time and invested into that which takes me away from listening to my neshama. I'm listening to a lot of other people's neshamas. I'm getting exposed to a lot of other people's opinions. And I'm hearing about a lot of different shitas and stuff like that. But I'm not listening necessarily. No one's showing me. No one's telling me. No one's teaching me. No one's displaying to me that that's not the avoda. We could hear shmuzes, al gabi shmuzes about the dangers of social media and the distractions of it. So I'll stop, I'll go on a cleanse, and I don't know if any of you are on cleanses, of social media cleanses. They're very interesting, they're very beautiful. They're very frightening at a certain point when you walk around and you realize, like an addict that stops sugar or something, and then you realize, I can't do this, I can't do that. But what can you do? You're actually able then to have time to do what's needed to come out of Paro Mitzrayim of today. Come out of Mitzrayim of today. And this is the last struggle. The last struggle is, before the great day comes, that Bezrat Hashem should be through our days, with our children, witnessing the coming of Melech HaMashiach, having enough guts to go to learn and to understand and be committed to listen to our own calling, listen to our own neshama, and not dafka through the butchering of 1,400 Yidden and hundreds of soldiers. Meaning that the cause for me to connect to my neshama and to hear what's going on inside should not be any external cause, and definitely not Chalila being exposed to what we saw, which in the world, that's really what triggered a lot of this awakening of Jewish pride. Rav Nassim Breslover teaches in a few places the way that it lasts forever and that can't be untouched, this awakening, is that it does not happen by that it happens by a bechira, a choice, a commitment, that I'm now going to go into a beautiful, beautiful journey to discover What is my neshama really telling me? And I'm not saying, Khalila, that we're not there yet. I'm sure many of you have moments like this all the time, for sure. But we're speaking right now about the kumav, the klal, like the whole people, the whole nation. And that's what we're attempting to do. So if you have the pages, the Sefer, and Daf Kuf Lamed. Kuf Lamed, yeah.
Someone started on WhatsApp group. He's saying a little short something.
Oh, wow, long time ago. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Is Daf Kuf? There's no Kuf Lamed in there?
No, this one doesn't have one.
Some, I'm sorry, some do.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'll get more. Masha, we did the shir for, absolutely. Okay, Shem Yishmor Allah, we should hear good news. I was saying what a pleasure it was to duchen with him on Shabbos. It was very, very special. Baruch Hashem. What we started last time was the top of Kuf Lamed, just the first paragraph, and we're going to go forward today. Again, I'll just read it again very fast, because we just basically said this right now. Paro chash et hasakana gdola b'itkolmut hanishmatit. Paro sensed, they're getting in touch with their neshamas. What should I do? Hevin. She'en lo efsharut leachnia et haneshama or neshamat hativa. Paro sees, I can't change the nature of these people's soul. I can't change the nature of it. Lachen hu bikesh davar echad. He said, I want to make sure one thing happens. Shelo yeh la'am Yisrael zman lachshov. Don't have any time to think. If you start thinking too much, you start getting in touch with this too much, bad scene. I can never afford for them to have a moment for Hisbodedus, because if any of these didn't have any Hisbodedus sessions, forget it. The game is over. The game is over. וזה שאמר, תכבד העבודה על האנשים ויעשו בה ועל ישעו בדברי שקר, שיהיו עסוקים כל הזמן בלי רגע לחשוב, without a second to think, בלי שנייה אחת, בה יהיו בלא גירוי חיצוני שיעסיק את נפשם ורוחם, without any seconds that they could have access to this place of called soul and spirit, כך, שלא יפנו את תשומת ליבם פנימה. This is in order so that they don't pay attention and start going forward inside their heart, because then they'll find something. They'll find a neshama zo'eket mibifnim. They'll find a soul that's screaming from inside. Now, what's amazing is that we could spend our whole lives and feeling good about ourselves, feeling good about our life decisions, feeling good about Yiddishkeit, without ever getting access to what's actually really taking place beneath the surface our whole lives. Because there's some kind of a shell, there's a mechitza over it. And then once in a while, you're like, I thought I was doing good, and then something triggers you, something happens, and then you're like, what? You hear something. And at the beginning, it sounds like this. Then the more you pay more attention, you hear, and then after a while, if you pay closer and closer and closer attention, you can definitely start to hear the words, please, get me out of here. Get me out of here. This is the process. This happens. This happens to every person. Every single one of us that's born as a Yidden or that joined Am Yisrael. This is the Neshama Elokit. This is the Nefesh Elokit that's always screaming. Now you can't hear this sound without quiet. You can't hear it. You can't hear this sound without any element of even the tiniest yeshiva das. A little bit of a yeshiva das. Now sometimes these moments happen when you hear a nigun. When you hear a nigun, you hear some kind of a nigun, somebody is able to take you to the explosion. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Nachon. Now you want to ignore it sometimes. You know why? Because it then is going to mess up your seder. What do you mean? It works for me. I can't stop having the Rabinowitz. There's no Rabinowitz here, right? I don't know. It's not like Rabinowitz or the Mendeleviches or whatever last name, right? I can't have them over for lunch anymore because I'm hearing my soul crying, and it knows it wants Shabbos. It wants a table of melachim. It wants to create the setting of the Shekhinah to come and sit at the Shabbos table. But I just know it's not like that with the so-and-so, right? This question comes up, I get asked this question every week. Someone had a really hard time from coming to the shiurim because they basically stopped accepting all lunch invitations, and because they couldn't, they're trying to figure out how do you do this, right? You know, how do you start addressing this voice and at the same time keeping shalom with friends and family that you love? So quite often we don't like this voice, so we're like, you know what? I wasn't born in the shtetl. I don't have the Baal Shem Tov here to guide me. I don't have all these things. I know it's there. I'll add some tzedakah. I'll start doing daf yomi, and we'll call it a day. Whatever the equivalent is, right? And this is a hard place. This is a really serious place. But I want you all to, I'm just going to confess, like, this room is intended for one word only, a revolution. It's not like nice words. Like, the point of these shiurim are not so you know what Rabbi so-and-so says. It's to change over our lives. Chad v'chalak. And when it's mamash l'shem shamayim, it happens l'shem shamayim, and it happens in a peaceful way, and it's contagious, and everyone wants to be part of it. Because you start getting them to listen. You're like, oh, I could talk to someone about this? Saying, are you hearing voices? I thought I was the only one hearing voices. Yeah, I'm also hearing voices, you know? And then the kookiness stops feeling so weird. It kind of feels like the norm. And eventually, the more the norm is this kookiness, the kookiness will actually turn up to being, a world where we're just okay with, as long as everything is working, but I don't really pay attention to that zakat neshama. Slowly, these things unfold. Kan. Now look what he says here. And I thought we were just going to run through these pages, but this paragraph is very, very important. Kan tamon yesod amok me'od b'ma'avak ben ha'avdut lecherut. Here we have a really deep foundational teaching regarding the struggle between slavery and freedom. Vehu relevanti me'od ledorenu. This is very relevant to our generation. Atzato shel Paro hi strategia armumit me'od. Paro's strategy was very armumi, tricky. What did he say? Crafty, yeah. Shenoada le'etom et osnav shel ha'adam, that basically forced people to seal their ears shut. Shelo yishma et kola shel nishmato v'shel tviat ha'cherut shebekirva. Paro's his whole shtick was, I'm going to do it like this, without telling them, don't listen to your neshama. I'm just going to cause in a tricky way, I'll cause the metzias of their lives that they won't be able to afford to listen.
He's pretty smart.
Paro? Yeah, Paro was smart. השיטה הזו היא למעשה פעולה שנועדה לחסל את הפנאי ואת רגעי הדממה בהם כל הנשמה בוקע. This shita is basically an action that was made in order to לחסל את הפנאי, remove, to destroy the pnai, the sheket. ואת רגעי הדממה, and those moments of silence, because in those moments of silence, בהם כל הנשמה בוקע. Because those are the moments of silence. It's actually not silence. What Rabbi Nachman calls ze'akat hadmama, the scream of silence. There's a scream that emerges from the place of silence. It's actually the noisiest thing you ever heard, much noisier than any other distraction. נקודה זו, חיסול הפנאי והדממה, היא המרכיב המהותי ביותר בבית העבדים המצרי. Remember we said that Hashem made very clear what he was taking us out of when he first meets us at Har Sinai. Remember what we were spending time on? Anochi Hashem Elokecha asher tziticha me'eretz Mitzrayim mi avdut. Is that what it says? No. Beit Avadim. Exactly. Beit Avadim. You could feel like you have everything that you need to get by in life, and it could be a Beit Avadim. That's a Beit Avadim. Avdut is like a slammer. Avdut is the jail cell. I'm a slave to something. Beit Avadim is, I don't have any consciousness or awareness that I actually am not accessing that which really, really makes me be alive in this world, and that is access to the neshama. Hasheket hu ha'ayum hagadol. Quiet is the greatest threat. Ki be'oto kol dmama daka nimtza Hashem u'mofia ha'neshama, because that's exactly the place where that voice comes, and Hashem is right there, and the soul appears. לכן, התרבות שמבקשת לשלוט על הנפש והרוח, חייבת לסתום כל חור וכל סדק. Therefore, the culture that demands to control the nefesh and the ruach must shut off every tiny hole or crack כדי שאור הנשמה יישאר חנוק מבפנים, so that the light of the soul remains חנוק, choked from within, ולא יתגלה, it won't be revealed. אפילו כמלא מחט צדקית, even without even like putting a little needle in there, there's no room. I want to tell you that one time I had the most greatest moment of kinat sofrim, holy envy. It was at a venue for an event, for a show, I don't remember what it was exactly, and Yosef Karduner was on the bill as well. Karduner showed up about 45 minutes early, and he said, I'm really, really tired. I'm going to go to sleep in the car. Okay? How many times did you have, well, it's very rare you bichlal have those moments, but you had a moment where you actually had 45 minutes and you were tired and you actually went to sleep and you didn't bring your pocket computer with you. Because the you just say, whatever, I'll just get this to get me tired, I'll listen to this till I fall asleep. I'll watch one thing to distract myself, and he went to his car and he went to sleep, and we went on his door and knocked on the door before he had to come up, and we woke him up from sleeping. I was like, wow, a person a person that has quiet can afford to also give himself what he needs when he knows what he needs, when he needs it. And this is something that, I myself have tried many different times and tactics, and it seems like this struggle to be able to live in the world, communicate with the world, and mamash transmit and go back and forth, be mashpia in the world, and receive from the world, but with clear awareness of when I need to shut things off in order to be able to function, seems to me like the greatest mastery someone could achieve in the times that we're in right now. Rare are the people that are really able to do this. Mamash. Now, you think Paro was tricky. This is even trickier, what we have up against us. Because so much of it is mamash b'shem HaKedusha. You understand? Paro's thing wasn't b'shem HaKedusha. Paro's distraction methodology was not b'shem HaKedusha. But any culture that basically kind of gets you to think that you need to know what's going on, that doesn't involve, what's really going on, is an imprisoning effect. So it's a very simple thing. Yeah.
Can I just ask, I guess my only caution with this saying that now we have such distraction is, why wasn't there Geula 20 years ago when we didn't have cell phones? Like 30 years ago, 20 years ago, what was this golden, like we were just kids, so whatever, thank God we didn't have cell phones, but it's like you're implying there was Avdut, and now there's cell phones, but there weren't cell phones until 15 years ago.
Right. So what's the question?
Why
wasn't there?
Why were things not different 20 years ago? There wasn't more Geula, like.
I have the answer. I have no idea.
I feel like it's something about now this is a struggle. What happened in between?
I have a much heavier question. Okay. How could it be Mashiach didn't come 1946? How in the world could it be it didn't come in 1967? I have no idea. But but that's not really your question. What is it's not a question, it's a statement. It's kind of like what Karen said 2 weeks ago. Why are you making it so hard? That's more the question. Hashem, why are you making it so hard right now? That now it's so much harder.
I guess I just feel like the generation's blame on cell phones, which is very real, is sort of like, it only explains this moment. It doesn't explain anything.
But that's what that's all we have. What else do we have? He's not, first of all, he didn't mention the word cell phone. He's just talking about distractions. You know what I mean? There are a lot of other things that you could put in there. However, I think it's pretty clear that if we're speaking about that, if we're saying like this, if I have quiet, and I learn how to listen to my neshama, and I hear it, and I wouldn't be able to ignore it, because once you really hear it, you can't ignore it, right? then I would do anything in my ability to be able to live that type of a life, right? But look how tricky it is because at least in my family, I kind of have to be on top of my children's school schedule through that. Through that same device. It's like such a weird thing. It's like, wait a second, it's actually a lot of good ways and things that I could do it. But on the other hand, I have to be aware of the price, of the cost of it. So it's not all on that. But listen, in the early 90s, right? In the early 90s, when did cell phones really start taking off? In like
30 years ago.
No, I think a little bit less.
20 years ago.
Not cell phones, smartphones. How many years ago was that? Like 15 years ago?
At least.
Mashu kazeh? Let's say like this. From the moment, no, I'll ask differently. Like, when did it start becoming what it is? You understand what I'm saying? Like, when did it start becoming what it actually is?
About 10 years. A decade.
Let's say like this, between 10 and 15 years ago now. But let's admit, even before that, there were plenty of distractions that took me away from listening to my neshama, right? It just got accelerated tremendously. But what he's talking about is tarbut, okay? Cultures. He said any culture, I think the word is that what he said? Yeah. A culture that asks to control the spirit and the soul, in order to do that, it must remove from you any room or any space to think, to listen. There's a guy that we went down, that we got very close to from Be'eri. Many of you met him. His name is Yardi. Yardi's for Ben Kibbutz Be'eri, and his brother Shachar was killed in the dentist office there. And Kibbutz Be'eri is like probably one of the most strongest, left-wing, like hardcore Shalom Achshav, or was, I would say, places. I'm sure it changed tremendously. So, on the first time that we went down there with him and he was taking us around, he was saying to us, לפני איזה 10 שנים, התחלתי פתאום לחשוב. He said, I started thinking. Were you there when he said that? He said, I started thinking. And I started thinking about the whole situation that we're in, and I moved out from here, and I pulled myself out completely of the ideology that I was born with and raised with, and I just started thinking for myself. And I don't have the same ideology of what my family and everyone else here did. It's like he gave himself time to think, and I didn't want to tell him. I was like, what you basically did was you just gave time for yourself to listen to your neshama to a certain extent. That when if you listen to the neshama in the context of Eretz Yisrael, you obviously realize they must go. They all have to go. That's halfway. They have to go. And Metziut. When you start listening to your neshama, to the Yiddish neshama, when you start listening to it. But because we have so much information coming from every single direction, from people that are very smart, very, very smart people, and people with very good kavanas, it doesn't give us the opportunity to listen to what's going on. So maybe he's not thinking they must go, but he's definitely, more in tune with the fact that Yesh po Eretz Yisrael, like, what's going on? Hold on a second. There's a piece of land that's tiny. It's a tiny piece of land for Am Yisrael. Shnia, bo nakshiv. Let's start listening. The problem, and I brought up in Shir a few weeks ago, and I got slammed from someone that watches online that didn't understand what I was saying, but it's okay, is that we're just politically speaking, or Medini speaking, what we would love to see is a revolution within all those that may be saying the right things, Tartei Mashma, that it's coming from the Neshama, it's coming from the Za'akat of the Neshama, in a very spiritual way, that's where it's coming from. So I believe the Am is waiting for that voice that speaks in the name of Eretz Yisrael to be the same voice that is really speaking about your own neshama and just completely from a soulful place. That's what I mean.
The secker that just came out, that 80% of parents and teachers think that there isn't enough Judaism being taught in schools.
Really?
I mentioned her on Shabbos. Galit. Galit Distal. I mentioned her on Shabbos.
She was thinking about a seker that came out 80% of the country.
Yeah, I gave her a bracha that she should continue to listen to her own neshama and get far, far away from being a chavrat knesset, so that she could continue to listen to her neshama. Because in that place, she'll get. First of all, she'll be. She herself said that she's going to be out by the next sevev. Yeah.
So then somebody else will be there.
Unfortunately, yeah. No, but what I mean is that we need to, Bezrat Hashem, we need to chuck out every single one of the 120. There needs to be a completely new light. Alavai, they should all, Alavai, Galit, Distal, this talk should just be the way that the Nifcharei Tzibur of Am Yisrael talk. Malka, what I meant is that she should be the Rosh Hashanah, meaning, but in the current, you know, meaning, like, can you imagine that the Knesset of Am Yisrael were people that were representing the cry of the neshama of Am Yisrael? Yeah, I want to imagine that. Like, I want to imagine that.
She said her speech was
Yeah.
very positive.
Yeah.
So there's hope.
She should have a.
There's hope.
You're sitting here. Of course, there's hope. Where we woke up this morning. Of course, there's hope. Yeah.
I dove into this past Shabbat into the golden calf, and
Wow, you have 2 more weeks to
I
get
know. I sort of just jumped into it because
Yeah.
I definitely feel like what you're saying right now is our time frame then in that moment, like distraction of the chatter,
Right.
and then you making a decision. You know, are you Am Yisrael or
Right.
you know?
So that happens
like
again.
in that moment.
That theme that you're speaking about, something we spoke about a lot in recent years. This concept of that the Egel HaZahav, the golden calf, came about because, according to our calculations, time was now meant for the revelation, for Moshe Rabbeinu to come down from Sinai with the Torah, and based on a miscalculation, you're not really listening to the cry of the neshama, but based on a miscalculation, he didn't come down then. He came down a day later. Boom, I need something else. Where else does this happen? Later on in history, which we're going to celebrate soon. So on Purim, what was the celebration of Achashverosh and Vashti's feast? They calculated, right, how much time would pass from the Churban Abayis, and they said if it doesn't happen until now, that means it's never going to happen again, that we're going to go back and build the Beis HaMikdash. It was also a miscalculation. And therefore we found Jews feasting at the Seudah of Achashverosh, because based on our need for something to happen right now, if that's not happening right now, the question is, can you sit a little bit in quiet and pay attention? Maybe something bigger is taking place, or do you need something now? Now, right? That's the same thing, the same parallel with Purim and Parshat Kitisan, the golden calf.
I mean, the whole culture of now.
The culture of now, nachon. Now, what I want you to see is that the next 2 pages. How far does the handout go out? To what page?
Oh, a lot.
Okay. So we can continue going. Now, the next 2 pages is basically the Rav Sasson explaining how, if you see on the bottom of Kuf Lamed Aleph, he's talking more about what's the illness of Western civilization, and he says over here that Western civilization, the Western world, you know, they always they show you, if you do this, you could become this, but it's all based on external things. It's not like if you do this, you could become this, and what they're describing that this is, if you learn how to listen to your own soul, you could become this. It always has to do with the word tzlut. Tzlut means dependency. If you learn to hack, if you figure out that system, you could become that. If you figure out that system, you can then grow and become that. Look at the bottom of Kuf Lamed Aleph. העולם המערבי עלול לשדר לאדם שסולם עושר נמצא מחוץ לנפש האדם עצמו. That's what the Western world basically broadcasts to the world, that the scale, the ladder of happiness exists outside of a person, and you have to go and get it. כאילו כל אדם הוא כוס מים חסרי טעם, והתרכיזים הממותקים ניתנים מבחוץ כדי להוסיף צבע וטעם לחייו. He's saying it's like, you know, one of the greatest things that I was so astonished and shocked by when I made Aliyah as a kid was that people freaked out about petel. I don't understand this. Like, you have water, and then you have this other artificial coloring taste geschäft, and you could do it in different. Back then, it was really just the main one was petel, but then it became anything, right? I was like, and everyone's like, well, look at this, you could do this and you could do this and it makes this. I'm coming from America, I'm like, or you could just buy the bottle that that gives it to you. I don't know if petel still big today? Yeah? So he's saying over here, what the world tells you is that you on your own are what?
Plain water.
Water. You're plain water. You need petel. You need the markivim to come and put it inside of you. כאילו כל כוחותיו וכישרונותיו אינם אלא בית קיבול לממש את המהות הזרה הניתנת בו ויוצרת את חייו. It's like he's saying over here, it's as if all of our kochot, all of what makes us us, all of our kishronot, all of our talents, they're not being used. They're saying you need other kishronot and kochot to get you, whatever that is you, to get you going. כמו כן, הוא מטיב להציג עולם שלם של הישגים חיצוניים ומספקים עושר חיצוני. כסף, נכסים, מעמד חברתי, תואר אקדמי, הצלחה פרסומית, וכל כיוצא בזה מוצגים לעיני כל כשיאים נחשפים. וסוחפים את כולם לרצות להצליח גם כן באחד ממדעי ההצלחות. Without revealing too much and praying that my parents' friends are not watching this or learning this, but there was one friend that my parents have, that we've had most of our lives. Sincere, loving people, very successful. And they've been in our lives since I'm a little kid. And I always used to get nervous whenever they'd come over. Always. Because the father would always talk to me about making sure that I'm not losing track of, being responsible in this world and following the written path as to how to become successful in this world. And I know, without a shadow of a doubt, that it was coming from nothing but utmost love. And I didn't listen to anything he ever told me. Not beshita, just I started listening. At a young age, someone came and cracked open a certain mechitza over my soul, and I can't ignore it, and trust me, I wish I could have. Many times. Many times. I tried putting on the fattest mechitzas you could imagine, and blocks and blinds, but certain things you just can't. And then about, 6-7 years ago, I saw him again somewhere, and he said, "Wow, you see, like all that hard work paid off." And I almost said to him, I said, the hard work was not listening to anything you ever told me. That was the real hard work. It was mamish with an attempt to because basically, and again, this person meant well. Like, I still consider them some of the deepest family friends we have, because to the extent that they understand what meaning well is, there's no one bigger than them. Bemet, I mean this with, like, these are people that I hope are at every family simcha, Be'ezrat Hashem, we should ever be privileged to have. They mean the world to me, and they've been such good friends to my family. But sometimes, and Reb Nachman says this regarding Purim, sometimes the voice of Amalek looks nothing at all like Amalek. It looks like Mordechai, a Yehudi. Do you understand? Quite often, the voices that are actually causing the most disconnect from our own neshamas really are coming from a place of their own atzmi, that's only an atzmi in the context of how to make it in the world. And for them, it worked. Meaning, what worked? Success worked. Mamash, success worked. Very successful people.
Material success.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Material success. Material success. And the little boy in me always pops up whenever I see him or someone from the family, mamash, till today. And I always want to just say, I always want to tell them, somehow I had enough guts not to listen to you. But I'm telling you that I'm saying this with so much love, because I know that what I would love to do is to take you to a mountain right now and to ask, what is going on by so-and-so? Like, tell me a little bit about what is going on by so-and-so, by you. What do you think is happening by your children? What do you think your grandchildren are experiencing? What do you think it is? Now, I believe that even though there's some people who say, oh, I'm not so spiritual, this stuff is not for me. I don't know what that means. People say they're not spiritual. It's almost like someone saying, it's much heavier actually, but it's even someone that's saying like, I'm not into legs. That's just not my thing. I have arms. My thing is not so much legs. I understand people that have legs. That's their kind of thing. Where are you going to go to? Like, what are you actually going to do? Where are you going to go? So the Tarbut HaMa'aravit wants us to ignore this type of talk by all means. Why? Because the Sitra Achra knows that once Yidden choose that I will never ignore my neshama, I will do whatever I can to keep on listening to it and to set up my life and the structure of my life and my social scene and everything about my world, my parenting, my spousing's a word, I don't know, my whatever, that, beino leveina, I have to function like a person, like a human being. I have to wake up, brush my teeth, all these things, but it's all in the context of listening to the neshama. It's all in that context of listening to the neshama. The other side will come in every generation and try to make it most difficult. Therefore, it seems clear that we are on the brink of something bigger than we ever could have imagined, because, and now I'm going to go back to what you said, because has there ever been a generation with this much distraction from listening to their neshama? Has there ever been? I don't think there's ever been since probably Paro. No? I mean, I don't know. When else has there ever been? The Shoah? No, I think it's different. Not to compare hardships. Not to compare hardships, but just to compare to, like, I don't know, a Yid, I tell you, a Yid was very much connected to his neshama in Auschwitz. I don't know, I actually wouldn't, the Shoah, I wouldn't put in this context of a time where we were disconnected from our souls. I think like after the Shoah, we were hearing screams and crying like never before.
All their layers were stripped away.
Sorry?
All their layers were stripped away.
Yeah, lo nishar lehem klum. Like, that's all they were hearing. But in terms of like what we're up against right now, it seems like Paro knew if we listen to the neshama, we have no chance. I think it's very clear that there's such a fight from Yishmael that Yidden shouldn't daven on Har HaBayit. Where is it coming from? Because even they know that if Yidden really get in touch with a Jew davening in the place that was meant for a Jew to daven to Hashem, game over. You're going to go back to your life normal after that? Game over.
But even when we had that, we got plenty distracted.
Well, in 67.
No, when we had the basic we were good at being distracted back then.
I'm coming, but I'm just thinking about today. Like I'm just thinking about today right now, and these are very important things towards this whole mahalach of trying to understand that in order to define what the identity of our door is, it's not just what do people like and what they don't like. What's the music they like? What's the music they don't like? What's the culture like? What they don't like? The zehut, the real identity of the door, should be only defined by the extent of how much the door is in touch with their neshama. Should be. Because that'll be the clearest answer as to what people are actually looking for, how they want to see what they're hearing manifest in the world. And, sometimes you could see people that are really in touch with this voice, and you'd never want to associate yourself with them. You know why? Because they really look and act different. They look different. They dress differently. Their whole approach is just different. They find, Baruch Hashem, I have so many friends like this. They really have listened. They don't know any other way of living, and they know that society today does not really have room for them. Doesn't have space for them. And then once in a while, you realize, wait a second, that person that, maybe they start screaming during davening, or they clap, or something gives like a krechts, or they just look a little bit differently, and they're something like, sometimes they're the ones that teach us so much more about all these things we're speaking about than 1,000 shiurim. When you see that it's actually possible, it's possible to be like this. It's possible to think like this. So I want you to turn now to, because now we really are, we're running through this. Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't see him. Yeah.
I think that it's very interesting though, like in the scheme of things, we've talked about it, it's 10 to 15 years that we're talking about, and yet already, we don't necessarily see a change of tachlis, but we're definitely in the generation of people wanting to see themselves more than ever before, wanting to understand who they are. It's like that contrast of like what the world is giving us and now seeing how bad
it's true.
Each one. So I think that's a little bit of his.
Where do you think it comes from? Like that ratzon. Where do you think it comes from? Is it because like the sheker of the world is just so thick?
Yeah. I really do. I think that maybe you need that extreme in order to.
Well, that explains Sarah's question. Meaning that's answering you. Yeah. It's a result of it.
Actually,
yeah.
We're so close. We're there.
Yeah.
We're there. The world is such.
Sheker, nachon.
It's hard. You can't even believe it. You can't even relate to it. You look at it and you're just shocked. And now it's not just us in this room. Baruch Hashem. Like, it's a world of people wanting to know who they are. And tachlis, it's not necessarily happening because, as you said, it's definitely an addiction. And it's not only phones.
It's a culture. It's not only phones.
But with that, we're gonna reach rock bottom.
Amen. Well, not amen to that, but amen to the next thing you're going to say.
Tachlis, we're still human beings, right? So, we know, unfortunately, that's what happens. But sooner than later.
So that's why I think that it's so. I was speaking about this a little bit on Shabbos on Friday night to say, I was trying to explain, what's the Torah that we're learning here? The Torah that we're learning here is to discover the power of your own neshama. It's the Torah of what makes us special. What is it that makes us so beautiful? And the more that I discover that, the more I want of that, and the more that the sheker of the world doesn't faze me. That's the beautiful thing about this. The more that I really tune into the pnimiyus hanefesh, the sheker of the world doesn't threaten me so much anymore. I just laugh at it. I don't know what year it was. Rav Ginsburg, did I speak about him on Thursday? But when he was here exactly a year ago on Zayin Adar. Were any of you here when he came, Rav Ginsburg? He came exactly a year ago, Zayin Adar. Now, this was the context was, is that people that aren't fazed at all by Olam HaSheker, 2 weeks after Simchas Torah, I thought it was with you. I don't remember when I said this. On Thursday class, but when he called. Which one?
No, we talked about there's like a masecha, you could just laugh and she give you simcha that you see the sheker of the world.
Right. Rav Judah Michelle came here. That's what I was talking about. Rav Judah Michelle came to the shul and gave it was 2 weeks into this, because he gave an evening in the shul upstairs, and it wasn't highly attended because people were, rightfully so, freaked out to even leave their safe room. Mamash, it was crazy. It's crazy. He really gave in a very, very, very deep evening, very important. Mamash, 2 or 3 weeks in. And the state that we were all in was literally just shaking all day long with our, remember, some of us were really thinking, Yecholiot, this is it. Mamash, that was really the mitziyut. Thinking, Mamash, this may be it. And everything that the world of Sheker was showing us was keep on listening to that voice. This really may be it for you. It was a nice ride. You'll have books written about you. We'll make museums for you in different places. And one of Rav Ginsburg's secretaries was here at that night, and when he left, he had to call Rav Ginsburg about something. And I was just walking out, and he said, Shlomo, bo tagid shalom larav. And he put Rav Ginsburg on the phone. And he says, I said, hello, hi, Rebbe, how are you? Oh, a good yor. He said the words, a good yor. It was still 2 weeks after Simchas Torah. It was the night of your daughter's bat mitzvah. How long ago after? Sorry? The week after. Yeah, because Eli brought me a lollipop, have some sweetness from the Simcha. A week after, yeah? Mamash, okay. So he said, a good yor. And the way he said it was people are still in the world that are wishing, that think that there's going to be a good yor, there's going to be good things happening. Because the tzaddik is not phased at all by Olam HaSheker. Why? Because the tzaddik is in tune with his neshama. And always, that's where he's operating from. And if the klal, if all of us, we're mamash operating only from there, we could keep on, and Bezrat Hashem, and I agree with you, Ilana, this is like a very good, positive way to look at it, is that look at us. Look at us. Look at the last few months. Look how hard it is, and look how strong we are. We're strong, and it's the chayalim that are connecting us to our neshamas. The soldiers are the ones that are forcing each and every one of us to kshivu, listen to the voice of your souls. I hate to say it, it's not coming from shmuzes. It's not coming from shiurim. It's not coming from gedolim. It's coming from those that are one with their body and their soul, going out to fight. And they're showing us, like, takshivu lakol shel neshama shlachem, listen to how strong you are. And I think it's good to pay attention for us and be like, Chaver, look, we were in a place, I don't know if it was rock bottom, I hope it was. I pray it was. Like, if that's rock bottom, let that be rock bottom. And now just, weiter, but with strength. The only strength we could really have, the only strength the chayalim need us to be connected to, is to basically make the most out of the shlichus that they're providing for us, which is litchaber leotzmat neshama hayudit. Everyone walking around with stickers about, like, we can't go back to October 6th. And everyone's only referring to things that are like tachlis facts on the ground. And that's also very important. I'm very proud to say my house is going through a massive shiputz, and it's avodah ivrit. There's not one Yishmaeli will step foot ever. Not just now, we were going to do this also before. We're doing complete Hebrew work in our, so certain things, of course, can't go back. But certain, I hate to say it, certain mindsets, like this stuff can't also go back to the way it was before either. We must, if you're going to say nothing's going back to pre-October 7th, that means that now every day I'm spending more and more time noticing and detecting the cry of my neshama. Every single day. More and more and more. And that's just as important as all the other facts on the ground. That has to be part of it. That's the revolution. This is the revolution. This is mamash it, and it is already. Like, we're already in it. It's already happening. And there's a lot of, Baruch Hashem, a lot of koach we can get from each other to say, like, yeah, all the tarbuyot of the world, all the cultures of the world have already claimed. Did you see Susan Sarandon yesterday doing a whole makela with a bunch of other chevre with beautiful, like, 6-piece harmonies about, like, ceasefire and genocide? This is in the name of the beauty of the care of the world. We're calling sheker out wherever we go, everywhere. And it's bone-chilling, and it's also liberating. It's liberating. We don't want our children to ever have heroes like Eric Clapton or Dave Matthews or any of these people. Even the ones that are kivyachol standing up for Eretz Yisrael, those are not heroes. Those are normal human beings. Mm-hmm. They're just normal human beings. They're not heroes. They're just right. They're just okay. Like, it's a normal thing. And that's why this journey of, like, as you see, this whole chapter is called Berur HaZerut Bedoreinu, and this chapter is called Venatati Lachem Lev Chadash. It is our time right now to receive a new heart. And it's, Shlomo HaMelech says that the heart has a function of hearing. Lev Shomea, it says in Kohelet. That Shlomo HaMelech speaks about the heart that hears. What does it mean that a heart that hears? So whenever I ask you, point to where's your soul? So where does everyone always go, usually? Yeah, but I don't know why it's like that. They don't go like here, because it's not, you understand that a soul is not a physical element, right? Where's your soul? It's the whole shebang. It's the whole thing, right? And sometimes, like, the deeper thing would be like, where's your soul? And you point to someone else. And you say, where's my soul? It's here. Like, that's the goal, obviously, in the big picture. Where's my soul? It's a neshama klalis. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. Now, there's a lot more to say about these things, but I think that it's pretty safe to say this whole paragraph, this whole chapter is sharpening more and more and more that it's best to invest that which lasts forever as opposed to things that come and go. What lasts forever? The neshama. The body, of course, doesn't last forever. What other things don't last forever? Any type of hype, of something that's cool in the moment, hot in the moment. Anything, the work that we're in right now is like just paying attention and noticing, what am I getting excited about? Now, if we can create a world, Bezrat Hashem, that children get excited about things that last forever, as opposed to things that come and go, oh my God, Gan Eden in this world. And it's possible. I believe in it fully. It's possible. The talk, even to children, the way that, and I think that it's also happening. This is not going to be a school bashing schmooze. It's actually happening. The more and more teachers are seeing, they're realizing more and more. Hespec is not the success. Hespec means, we said it a few weeks ago, coverage of material. That is not the success anymore. We tried, Corona, now we have the war again. That's not going to be, and I was so happy when my daughter came home with a teudah this week, and it had no tziyunim. You saw it with some of your kids too? But there's no grades. Aura came home, there's no grades. There's just words from the teacher to the student in each miktzah about how she was with it. I was like, my best thing is unbelievable. And I'm telling you, it's actually more motivating than the grade system. So, yalla, lamshich. A child would be so much more encouraged to listen to the neshama if that's the way that they're being judged in school, judged for, graded, for lack of a better word, but for us, for ourselves as well. It should be a week, when I say in the beginning of Shir, it should be a Geula week. It should be a week of Geula literally means how much was I listening to my soul this week? And how many times did I catch myself by getting excited over things that are finite, as opposed to getting more in touch with that which is infinite, which is Nishmas Klal Yisrael. And I know that this journey, just to bring it down now a little bit, it's all fluffy and beautiful, and you're sitting here, and it's like, wow, you'll walk out, and there's going to be someone cutting you up, meaning, you understand, there's going to be a dirty diaper, there's going to be all these different things, but if that's the premise of my life, if that's the context of how I choose to conduct myself in this world, all those other things don't become distractions to it. They all find its place. They all fit in. They all mesh in. And the friends that maybe you can't talk to like this yet, trust yourself that the love that you have for them is so real that eventually it'll spill over, and you'll be feeling like you'll be doing the greatest favor in the world. Bemet, and I know this is a hard one. You'll be doing the greatest favor in the world to those that can't yet speak this kind of language and consider this Talmud Torah. At the end, trust me, they will come to you and they will thank you. Thank you for introducing to them to a world that they never even knew that they were crying for. All right, Shvia Shavua Tov, everyone.